Okay, guys, you're listening to the planetkambo.com podcast. This is episode number 2. In today's episode, we're talking about how to relieve stress, exercises and activities to quickly relieve stress and anxiety, because we understand that we all live stressful, busy lives. So I'm here with John, the founder of Planet Kambo.
Hello.
And why don't we just get into it?
Let's dive straight in.
So from your perspective, John, because you see a lot of this, you're working with Kambo, you're working with trauma release exercises. What are the main causes of stress and build up? And before we get into how to relieve stress, maybe we should talk about how to prevent stress and the build up of it getting too much.
Okay. I think a lot of it is to do with the way we live now. So we don't live naturally. We live in cities. We're disconnected from the earth. Technology. These things will build up stress. So a lot of us have stressful jobs. So we're in stressful jobs. We're using technology all the time, and as amazing as technology is, it definitely is not good for us. In certain ways it is, and in certain ways it isn't. So, for example, your smartphone, an amazing invention, but the smartphone is also a way not to feel. It's if you go on any tube or bus or any time anybody's bored, you look around, everybody's on their phone constantly. So it's this constant stimulation. We live in this state of constant stimulation, and it's completely unnatural. And that is a recipe for stress.
I'd have to echo that, to be fair. Technology is such... I was thinking about this the other day. It's made such a difference to our lives that we can't even comprehend. There was a famous person in the management field called Peter Drucker, and he called this time the information age, or the information technology age. And we got so much information and so much stimulus at our fingertips that you're in a constant state of low level anxiety, because you've always got your job, emails, instant messaging, all this stuff. So you don't really get a chance to calm down and switch off like you did in the past.
That's exactly it.
I mean, you have to make a conscious effort to build that into your day, and really, think about turning laptops off and TVs and smartphones half an hour before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
But the truth is that a lot of people still will look at their phone or their computer just before going to bed.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones. So, because technology is addictive, it's to do with dopamine. When you're scrolling, this is something that I've discovered, and I know because I feel it when I do it. When you're scrolling through social media, Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube, and you're scrolling looking for things, what that's doing is it's firing off your dopamine, that dopamine system in your brain. It's the same as taking drugs or sugar or cocaine or it's the same mechanism. And when you're scrolling, what it's doing, it's not the thing that you're looking at that's doing it. It's the anticipation of the next thing that you're going to see. And it's this constant scrolling. And I know because I do it. I've done it. And I know that feeling. I can feel what it's doing to my brain. And the problem is when you do that all the time, then your brain gets used to higher levels of dopamine, and then everyday life becomes boring. So just going for a walk or doing a mundane task suddenly becomes really, really boring because your smartphone's not involved. And I know I've experienced this firsthand, and it's not good. It's very, very unhealthy. So I think the first step in relieving stress is managing your technology use, or your smartphone use, your laptop use, social media use. You need to have, what's the word? I can't think of the right word. Safeguards in place. Be disciplined with it. Because if you're not, you could easily sit there scrolling all day. Your brain will get used to it, and it will want to do that. And then you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you reach for your phone before you even get out of bed. You start checking messages, you start scrolling. That's the worst thing you can do first thing in the morning. I actually made a video about this, and I said on our YouTube channel, don't reach for your phone while you're still in bed. It's the worst thing you can do. You need to have at least an hour of no phone in the morning. When you get up, have a morning routine that doesn't involve technology. And for me, it's meditation, bit of Kundalini yoga, breakfast, and then I turn my phone on and I look at messages. And then a good hour has passed, at least an hour, and I'm calm. Whereas if you start scrolling on your phone, as soon as you wake up, you go straight back into that whirlwind. That's what it does. I know it, for me it does, maybe not so much for other people, but it creates this whirlwind in my head of multitasking and scrolling and dopamine hits constantly firing off. And we've just come to live like that, this hyper-stimulated state, and it's completely unnatural and it makes you unhappy. That's why people are unhappy, is because of this technological phenomenon with social media, really.
Yeah. And I mean, it's come about so quickly as well, because how old is Facebook? Facebook only got popular in around 2008. So like we're looking at a period of about 12 years here, and people are addicted to push notifications, and I don't think we've fully understood the true impact of what it's actually doing to us. But yeah, you find you have to unplug from these things. I switch my phone onto airplane mode and I take the Wi-Fi off because I don't like the radiation or the microwaves in my pocket. So it's good to be conscious about the smartphone.
I would say that's the main one. If you're struggling with stress, a lot of it is to do with you having no downtime. And if your phone is always there and anytime you're bored, you get your phone out, that is massively contributing to your stress, because we need downtime. We need time when we're just sitting doing nothing and just relaxing, not involved in technology. So I would say that's a big one right off the bat. Have discipline when it comes to your phone, and it'll be difficult because it's like telling a cocaine addict to have discipline when it comes to cocaine. It's the same thing. It's so addictive. It's so easy to reach for your phone and scroll, but it damages you. It really does. And those apps, they're designed that way. They're designed to be addictive.
Yeah.
So really keep your scrolling in check. That's number one.
I mean, they've split tested everything at the big social media companies. That's why the push notification button is red, because it alerts the mind straight away. It's like an attention signal or warning. And they've really learned how to hijack people's brains with this stuff. I remember one of the top executives at Facebook was coming out, and he was saying, he's worried about some of the stuff he was working on when kind of like trying to make Facebook a lot more addictive. And I read only the other day that multitasking, which is another form of being on your phone and kind of being split between tasks and not having your attention on one thing, it can to some extent cause brain damage. It's really that stuff is
because
really...
it almost causes like ADHD like symptoms. And I know because I have experienced that, where I'm working on something and I can't focus because my mind wants to go to something else. This constant need to be stimulated. Your attention span shrinks massively because you're so used to one thing after another, looking at one thing, moving to the next thing, message comes in, scrolling on there, doing this, doing that, and it does damage your brain. I don't think it damages it permanently. I'm sure you can correct it through not over time through not doing that, but it is very damaging.
It's like a muscle. You're kind of training it to be lazy. So I mean that's a really good topic to cover before we get into the other exercises around stress, social media, and learning to put down your phone. I mean, for me, I noticed a difference when I started meditating. Well, first of all, you start to notice the kind of erratic, stimulated mind that always needs another dopamine hit, or it needs to look at the phone. You start to become self-aware and conscious of that when you start meditating, because you're just taking a break from that. So you're getting some distance on your normal behaviour, and with all this technology, it has become ingrained to a certain extent. But what was it for you? Because you said you struggled with it. So how did you kind of?
It's discipline, and when I have the discipline, it feels more like I'm in a meditative state all the time. But then I slip and I go back into looking at my phone.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so easy to do because it's there. It's just having this drug that's there all the time. But with meditation is like the opposite of that. With meditation, like you said, when you start meditating, you realise how unruly your mind is, because it's been trained to constantly need to jump from one thing to another. So when you start meditating, your mind will be all over the place. You're just trying to focus on something, just focusing on your breath or a mantra or whatever it is that you use for your meditation. And for me, it's balancing. It's balancing my attention on the thing that I'm focusing on. And for me, I use my breath. And again, I made a video about this as well. But that's what's happening when I meditate, is I'm balancing my attention on my breath. And to begin with, it will just keep falling off. Literally within 5 seconds of watching my breath, it's already gone. It's already focusing on something else. And what you do is you keep bringing your attention back to your breath. So it's like you're balancing something and it keeps falling off. And you keep putting it back and it falls off, and you put it back and it falls off. And you do it over and over and over and over again to the point where it will drive you nuts. It's actually frustrating when you're meditating and this is happening. But then when it clicks, it stops falling off and it stays. And when that happens, what happens is, for me, it's almost like a feeling of deep sleep comes down. Like it feels the same as deep sleep. So your mind stops grasping. So in ordinary waking reality, you have objects in the foreground, thoughts, feelings, sensations, sights, all these things going on, and your mind is constantly grasping at them. And in the background, you have this background of stillness or deep sleep or consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And in normal waking reality, the consciousness, you don't even notice it. It's just there in the background, peaceful in the background, because your mind is too unruly and it's too much grasping at these objects in the foreground. When you meditate and it clicks, when you're balancing your attention and it stops falling off, what happens is the deep sleep that's in the background, that comes into the foreground, and the objects that you were grasping at, they go into the background. So the objects don't disappear, they just swap places with the deep sleep. And then your mind becomes focused on the deep sleep, and you can actually feel it when it happens. When you're meditating and it clicks, you can feel it, because your mind suddenly stops jumping, it stops falling off, and it stays on the breath. And then all those thoughts and objects are still there, but your mind is not grasping at them anymore, and they just float by without grabbing your attention, because your attention is on your breath. So meditation for me is the focusing of attention, and through the focusing of your attention, you're able to notice the deep sleep, the stillness that's there in the background. And that's for me what really happens when you meditate. And then through that process, your attention span will increase. This urge to multitask or to need to keep looking at different things, that will start to go away. So as much as possible, you want to swap what you do on your phone with meditation. So when you're sitting on the tube, when you get that urge to get your phone out to scroll or play a game or whatever it is you're going to do, because you just can't sit there doing nothing, meditate instead. And if you can replace trivial things on your phone with meditation, you will be much happier. And that feeling, like I said, that deep sleep feeling that I get when I'm doing this correctly, and I wake up in the morning and I do my morning routine, and I've meditated the night before and I meditate in the morning, and my meditation is on point, then that deep sleep feeling is there in the back. I can feel it all the time, and it's just peace, and it feels healthy, it feels natural. But it's so easy to lose it, because if you skip your meditation sessions, then it gets harder and harder to get it to click again.
Yeah.
So for me, meditating, if you meditate once every few days, it's not going to do anything. You'll never ever get to that place. It will always be a chore. If meditation is a chore, if sitting down to meditate for you is like, oh, I can't be bothered, I don't want to do it, then it hasn't clicked. And until it clicks, you won't know what I'm talking about. And when it does, you will understand. You'll remember what I'm saying and you will understand. But until it really clicks for you and the deep sleep comes forward, the objects go into the background, it will feel like a chore. So if you meditate once every few days, you're wasting your time. You're never going to get anywhere. If you meditate once a day, I would say you're still wasting your time to a certain extent. I really noticed a difference when I started meditating more than once a day. Twice a day is really good, and then 3 times a day, once you're in the zone with meditation, it's clicking, you do it 3 times a day, you are golden. Your life will change completely. So that's, if you can do 20 minutes to half an hour 3 times a day, which I know is a big ask, a lot of people don't have that kind of time, but at least twice a day. If you meditate once a day or once every other day or whatever, you will always be sitting there fighting it. Your mind will be jumping all over the place. You won't be focused. So the longer you leave between meditations, the longer you leave between sits, the harder it is to get in the zone. The more often you do it, the easier it is to get in the zone. When I'm really in the zone, I'm doing it 3 times a day. I sit down, and within 2 minutes, that's it. I'm in that place. The deep sleep's there. I'm calm. I'm focused. When I don't do it, if I skip a day of meditation, the following morning, I'm all over the place again. And maybe this is just me. Maybe other people are different, but I just know from my own experience that because of the world that we live in, if we all lived in nature and we didn't have all this stimulation, you wouldn't need this 3 times a day meditation. But because we live in this way, I know for myself, when I meditate 3 times a day, that's what I need. My body needs that. My mind needs that. And when I don't do it, then I'm in that whirlwind state in my head, and I'm multitasking, and I can't. What's the word? Agitated.
Yeah.
It's a constant feeling of agitation. Of I don't want this. I want something else. I don't like this. I want something else.
Being uncomfortable, being irritable. Yeah.
Yeah. Just this subtle agitation.
Anxiety, underlying anxiety.
Yeah. And that comes from all of the things that I've mentioned, and meditation will fix that for you. But if you've never done it before, you're going to have to do it and do it and do it and do it and do it, and it won't work for the beginning. Maybe it took me, when I first started meditating, it took me a good 2 months before it clicked, and I had to just go through this process of sitting there, and you sit there for half an hour and your mind doesn't calm down, and it feels like nothing is happening, and you think, well, what a waste of time. Just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, because you are training your muscles. It's like when you go to the gym. If you've never been to the gym before, when you first start going to the gym, it feels like nothing's happening. You're like, well, what, say you go to the gym, you've been going for like 3 days, you don't notice any difference really in your body. You're aching, you're sore, but you don't notice any difference, and you think, well, why am I doing this? But you know that if you keep going, in time, your body will change, and you will feel better, and you will get stronger. And it's the same thing with the meditation. Every time you sit, even if your mind is all over the place for the whole 20 minutes or half an hour, you've still moved up one rung on the ladder. That's definitely true. So even if the first month or 2 of meditating you find you just feel like you're wasting your time, keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And it will click, and when it does, that's when you'll start to get the benefits. And then when it clicks, it's not a chore anymore. You actually look forward to doing it. And it's also like your mind gets used to it. So you know how at certain times of the day you'll get hungry based on when you ate the previous day and the previous day. It's called, there's a name for the hormone. I think is it ghrelin? And there's leptin and ghrelin. I can't remember which one's which, but there is a hormone you have that signals you to eat, and it's based on routine. So if you get used to eating breakfast, then when you wake up in the morning you'll be hungry. But if you get used to not eating breakfast, when you wake up you won't be hungry. It's how our bodies work. And what I found is your brain will get used to meditation. So at the same time, when you get in the zone with it, at the same times every day, when you normally meditate, you'll start to feel it coming on before you sit down. You'll get that feeling of like, oh, right, here it comes. My mind is getting ready to meditate. So it's about getting into that routine with it. And when it does, when you get there, it will become effortless. And every time I talk about it, it always reminds me to get back on it, because life gets in the way. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I've meditated, not to the same extent you have, John. You're obviously a lot more passionate about it than I am, and more experienced. But I think saying you need to do it at least twice a day would put some people off. And what I would say is once a day still has an effect.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I think even after 10 hours of meditation, or 10 minutes for 10 episodes, something like that. Once you get up to the 10-hour mark, it changes the neurology of your brain, so your brain is literally rewiring itself to hold a more calm and present state.
Yeah. Well,
so even if you start off on once a day, and then if you want to get into it twice a day, but I do feel that would put some people off, because they'll just look at twice a day and think, oh, this is way too much for me. So just to start off, like if you start walking before you can run, and you just do some meditation, I mean, it gets to a point where you feel you're naturally in a more meditative state anyway. Once you've started meditating for a while, you're able to switch off that part of your mind, the erratic kind of neurotic part of your mind, which is always focusing on tasks you need to do next. The dopamine part of your mind, and also the inner critic as well, always pointing out what's wrong or this or that. It kind of, it changes your brain waves, because I think is it beta, which is like the low-lying anxiety brain waves. And
I know it definitely does. I can't remember, but it definitely does change your brain waves.
Yeah, and then you go into theta and delta, which I think are the more.
Yeah, I think delta's the sleep brain waves, and it might be theta that's meditation. I can't remember, but you can look it up. You can Google it.
I mean, that's once you get to enlightened Zen master level.
No, I think when you feel that feeling that I spoke about, that deep sleep feeling, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's when your brain waves are changing. It's very distinct when it happens. Those of you that meditate or get to that place will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a feeling of deep sleep. It's like when you wake up in the morning and you've had a really good sleep, and you just open your eyes and you're kind of a bit dozy and sleepy, and it's peace. It's the same feeling. It's exactly the same feeling. But with regards to I said about doing it twice a day, obviously if you've never meditated before, that might seem like it's daunting. But I know from my own experience, having meditated once a day, once I started meditating twice a day, it accelerates your progress. Same with the gym. If you go to the gym once a week, and then suddenly you start going 3 times a week, you're going to notice more of an improvement if you go 3 times a week. If you're struggling with meditation, if you find you're never getting in the zone, then the remedy for that is do it more often. The more often you do it, the easier it is to get in the zone. And once you get in that zone, then just keep running with it. Don't regress. Because I've done that as well. When I don't meditate regularly, it becomes harder and harder to get into the zone, and then it becomes a chore. What you want is it to be effortless. You want to sit down to meditate because you want to sit down, not because you feel like, I've got to do this thing that I have to do, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
So I'm just talking from my own experience. Twice a day or 3 times a day is where it's at. Definitely.
And it becomes enjoyable as well.
Because just sitting down, trying not to think is not meditation. And that's what a lot of people do. But you find your own way. You find, there's lots of different ways to meditate. The thing that really worked for me was an app called Headspace. And I don't use it anymore because I don't need it. But when I was struggling with meditation, I started using Headspace. And the reason it worked for me was because it was a routine. It's like a 30-day challenge, and it's like day 1 and day 2, day 3, and each time you play the recording and you do it. And because it was an app where you're following a program, you don't want to miss a day. And that's what did it for me, and that's what made it click. Was when I started using Headspace and I started doing it twice a day, and then suddenly I found it was clicking. And then I was like, okay, this is what meditation, this is what all those people talk about. When people say meditation will change your life, for the first few months I didn't get it because it wasn't happening for me. And it was only when I started being routine with it and doing it more than once a day that it started clicking. And then I was like, okay, now I understand. Now I get what they're talking about.
Yeah, Headspace is a great app to start off with. I think we've got 10 sessions of 10 minutes, and before each session may have a good little illustrated video kind of showing you what meditation is, because one of the misconceptions about meditation is it's clearing your mind of thoughts and not thinking, which is actually almost impossible to do. It's more about allowing your mind to relax, and when you do realise that you're going off track, it's just bringing it back. So it's like you were saying, it's bringing that balance into the equation.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The thoughts don't go away. As I mentioned earlier, the objects, they won't stop, but your mind stops grasping. That's what happens, is your mind is focused on the stillness, and the thoughts are still there, but you're not grasping at them. I found it when I'm in the zone with meditation, I can think when I'm meditating, but I'm not attached to the thoughts. That's the difference. You can do some great thinking when you're in a meditative state, but it's this constant grasping that's the problem. So it's wonderful when it clicks. It is truly wonderful. It's just this beautiful, peaceful feeling that comes forward. And I would say the two things that we've spoken about so far, I would say are the most important, easy things. Anybody can do these. You don't need to go to any workshops or do anything, right? Have discipline with your phone and with technology. Catch yourself scrolling, catch yourself getting that urge to want to look at Facebook, or even playing games as well, playing games on your phone when you're on the tube, just to kill time. Those things are damaging you to a certain extent. I'm not saying you can never ever look at Facebook or never play games, but feel the urge to do it. What you need to do is be disciplined with your time, is to have a certain time in the day or times in the day when you look at social media, not any moment that you're bored. So it's having discipline with your phone and start a meditation practice. Those two things alone will change your life in terms of your stress levels.
Yeah. I mean, essentially it's just about turning your phone onto airplane mode and then just checking it, I don't know, 3 times a day maybe.
Very good idea. Yeah. That's the right. Because the other thing as well is when you get a message, that feeling, I know because I get it, when someone sends you a WhatsApp or whatever, there's that surge of dopamine of like, oh, I wonder who that is, I want to look at it.
Yeah.
It's that I need the stimulation.
Yeah.
Who is it? What is it? I want to see it. Right. Yeah, and that is not good either. So I think if possible, I know a lot of us have jobs where we need our phones to be on.
Yeah.
But that's a really good way to live, is to or either keep your phone in a different room to where you're working.
Yeah.
Or have it on airplane mode and check in a few times a day. But having this device there, this dopamine stimulator next to you that's firing off every 2 minutes, is incredibly unhealthy.
So that would be our first way to recommend relieving stress, meditation. I think we've given a decent plug there to meditation in general, and headspace.com, it's a great app.
Yeah, check it out.
And also I will just add on to that, there's some good sleeping apps as well, like Piziz and Calm, that they put you in kind of a hypnotic state before you're going to bed. So if you do find that you are there with your laptop or your phone, then you can put Piziz on, Pizzizz, or Calm, and they'll just play some kind of, I don't know, tropical rainforest music, and slowly have a narrator kind of easing you to sleep. So that's another one which probably goes alongside meditation in a way, if you've not meditated before.
Yep, and you can also use things like binaural beats. I haven't found them to be amazingly effective for me, but I know other people do. I think with people it can be a bit hit and miss. For some people they're amazing, for other people they don't really do anything. I have used them, and I do use them sometimes, but I haven't noticed any amazing effects from them. But that's definitely something else to try for sure. And the next thing we could discuss is exercise. I think is another good way to relieve stress, would be physical exercise, and whether that's yoga or lifting weights in the gym or calisthenics, swimming, running, whatever it is that you like to do, exercising definitely is a way to relieve stress. Human beings are designed to move. We're not designed to sit in front of a computer all day. So regular exercise, whatever it be, is definitely something that's going to help to relieve stress. I think most people know that. It's obvious that physical activity, sweating, moving around, these things are natural exercises for human beings. Sitting in rooms looking at screens with artificial lighting and whatnot, that's not how we're designed. So you try to move as much as possible, minimise the amount of time that you spend in front of a computer. But I know a lot of us sit all day because of work. There's nothing we can do about that. So breaking up that time with exercise is definitely something that's gonna that's going to help.
My suggestion with that one is just get out of the house and go for a walk as well.
Yeah.
Like even that. I mean, it's raining today, and I've just been out for a nice long walk in the rain. But yeah, I mean, even that, it releases this, because otherwise you have this underlying level of anxiety, and it's just a way to kind of get moving and kind of like move your body and kind of wear it off, which I think moves nicely into asking about some trauma release exercises, because when we get stressed, that stress is actually stored in our body, even on a cellular level, which is something I didn't mention about the meditation. Like when you start meditating, you kind of, I don't know if you've had this experience, but it kind of cleanses your cells in some ways and releases a lot of the underlying stress and anxiety from that, coupled with exercise and going out, jogging, running, lifting weights or whatever.
Absolutely. We store trauma, tension, stress in our bodies. We're energetic beings, so everything is energy, and these traumatic energies get stored in the body in various organs and muscles. As I'm sure most of you know, Kambo is great for that. It clears out what's called panema, which is dark and negative energy, according to the indigenous tribes who work with Kambo. But we have different muscles that will store trauma. So unfortunately, because of the way we've been conditioned, we don't release our trauma. If you ever watch a video of an animal that's being chased by a lion, let's say there's a gazelle being chased by a lion on the African plains, and it gets away, what it will do is it will lay on the ground and it will shake violently for about 20 minutes, and then it gets up and runs off like nothing's happened. And what it's doing there is it's releasing the trauma of that experience. So when it was being chased by the lion, it's in a hyper stress state, it's in fight or flight, and then naturally, instinctively, it lays on the ground and it shakes to get rid of its trauma. Or as human beings, we don't do that. We've been conditioned out of our natural way to relieve trauma and stress. And what trauma release exercise, or tension and trauma release exercise, what this is, it's a way to mimic that shaking process to allow the body to relieve stress. I mean, also, if you sometimes people, when they go into shock, they shake, and it's a natural way for the body to relieve stress, and it's in us, but we've forgotten how to do it. And a lot of this is to do with conditioning. So with this release exercise, what happens is you do a series of stretches and tensioning exercises for the pelvis and the lower body, and then at the end you lay down and you allow this shaking to happen. The shaking, it's similar to, for those of you that work out in the gym, if you've done a leg day and you're doing those last few reps, you notice your muscles start shaking. That's what it is. But you're tensioning particular muscles. So we have a muscle called the psoas muscle, which runs from the inside of the thigh up to the pelvis, and this is known as the trauma muscle. This is the muscle that can hold a lot of trauma. And
so just to visualize that a little bit more, is that your hamstrings as well? Is it?
No, it's not the hamstrings. So it's like it runs, I think, from the inside of your thigh up to the front of your pelvis.
Right. Okay.
So whereas your hamstrings just run along the back of your thigh, if you look at your, I think, is it adductor or which one's the inside? Is it adductor? I forget the name. There's adductor and abductor on the inside and outside of your leg. I forget which way around it is. But if you imagine from the inside of your thigh, there's a muscle that runs from the inside of your thigh up the front of your pelvis, and it attaches to your pelvis. That's your psoas muscle. And that's where a lot of tension and trauma is stored. So with this release exercise, it's targeting that muscle mainly, and muscles in the pelvis. And that muscle starts to tremor and it releases the stored tension. and it's very, very effective. It's effective for things like PTSD, for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's effective just for relaxation, for day-to-day stresses, and it's very calming to do. It really does relax you, and it's a very, very interesting technique.
And if people want to get involved with some trauma release exercises, I know.
Yeah, so we run a workshop where we combine the tension and trauma release exercise with Rapéh, which is a tobacco snuff. And we found this is incredibly effective because Rapéh it's an indigenous tribal medicine that's been used for centuries. Tobacco is one of the oldest medicines around. It's the original medicine, really.
Right.
Before Kambo and before these other plant medicines, it was tobacco. And tobacco is very, very grounding. It's because tobacco is earth, and it can help to open up the body in different ways. So it also opens up the crown chakra, and it grounds you. And we found that when you combine doing this tension and trauma release exercises with doing Rapéh, so we do the Rapéh first and we do some meditations and then we do the trauma release exercise, it can help to facilitate some really deep releasing. So it kind of like acts like a key. It unlocks certain parts of the body and of the mind.
Rapéh does.
Rapéh, yeah. Before we then do the trauma release exercise. So the release exercise is still powerful anyway, but we've come up with a method where we combine these two modalities and we get something that's incredibly powerful. You can find out about us if you check out. You can check out our meetup page. We run the trauma release workshops through our meetup page under Healing Works. So it's the Healing Works meetup group, and within Healing Works, there are going to be various different workshops, of which the tension and trauma release is one.
Okay, is that going to be once a week now, or is it?
Yes. We've done one workshop, and we're in the process of setting up a weekly workshop in the evening, and you can come along and see what it's all about, and get to enjoy some of the Rapéh, and go through this releasing process.
Yeah, no, I've been down to one of the trauma release exercise workshops, and I can recommend it. We did it in a hot Bikram yoga studio, so it was quite warm, and it is a little bit like yoga, isn't it? I guess the exercises are specifically designed for trauma release, but in a way, it's just stretching muscles, and
it is. And the exercises that we do, they are. This is my own version of this modality. So I took tension and trauma release work, and I've adapted it. In obviously, I did the Rapéh, and also I've changed the exercises, and I've added exercises because I feel like there's a better way to do it. So we've created something quite unique, and I feel it's more powerful, and it's a very, very powerful way to remove stress, trauma and tension from the body. And it's also very safe and gentle. It's not this huge dramatic thing where you're not going to re-traumatize yourself doing it. But the process itself, the stretches and the tensioning exercises, they're not designed to open the body in the same way that yoga poses are. So in that respect, it's not the same as yoga. They're purely a means to an end. They're a way to create tension and stretches within those muscles. So then when you go into the pose at the end to allow the shaking to happen, you have created enough tension to then have a very sort of deep tremoring release. Because what I found is with some of the other trauma release exercise is I go through the exercises, and then when I go to do the actual releasing, I haven't tensioned my muscles enough. It also depends on your physical state. For people that work out, they need a lot more tensioning than someone who doesn't, because in order to get that shaking, if you've got very fit legs and you work out a lot, the amount of tensioning that you need to do in order to invoke this tremoring is going to be a lot more than someone that doesn't work out. So I've developed this adapted version of trauma release exercise that guarantees that you're going to get the tremoring. Whereas when I've done it before, it's been a bit hit and miss. That's what I found in my own experience.
So how did you develop the workshop then?
How did I develop the workshop?
Yeah.
So I just took my own knowledge of this modality and my own knowledge of stretching and the muscles that are involved and my own stretching routine, because I do a stretching routine, and I combined them. So there's another very good book I read. There's a few books on stretching actually. The one that I read is called what's it called? The Permanent Pain Cure by a guy called Ming Chu. And in that book, he has a whole routine of various different stretches, it's a whole body routine. And there's another book called The Supple Leopard,
right,
which is also a very good book on stretching. So I essentially took the trauma release exercise and I took my knowledge of muscles and stretching and I've just added more to it to make the stretches more extensive, to guarantee that you get this tremoring. Because as I said, I've done it sometimes on myself and I've gone through that whole process and then I don't get the tremoring. So this was a way to kind of guarantee it. And on our last workshop, there was a lady there who's done trauma release exercise before with 2 different practitioners, and she said this was by far the most effective that she's done. So I think the combination of that and also using the Rapéh, that we've created something very special and hopefully can help a lot of people to relieve the stress and tension.
It's quite unique. There's probably not many other workshops out there.
No, there wouldn't be anything like that. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, if you're interested, then definitely come and try it. You can always drop us an email. If you want to ask me a question, drop us an email at info@planetkambo.com. Happy to answer any questions you have about it.
Okay, good stuff. So now moving on to the last.
Yeah.
Is it the last? Or?
There's a couple more things we could talk about. Okay. So there's one. The next one would be a good one is sex, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's the same with exercising. It releases endorphins into the brain. It's a natural way to relieve stress. It's inbuilt in us to want to do that. It's a pleasurable experience. Sex and being intimate with somebody, it releases the endorphins and oxytocin, which is that feel-good hormone when you cuddle someone. And socialising with friends also. Spending good times with people that you care about. This goes without saying that these things are going to relax you, for sure. And this is the last one, is good nutrition and sleep. So if you eat crap, it's not going to help if you're stressed. Having a good diet where you eat good nutritious food is definitely going to contribute to lowering your stress levels. And sleep is incredibly important. I can't stress that enough. I know when I have one bad night's sleep, I am highly stressed the next day. My cortisol is raised. I hate that feeling in the morning where I wake up and I've had a terrible night's sleep. I can feel the cortisol like coursing through my body. Instead of waking up with that deep sleep feeling like you slept really well, you wake up wired. Yeah. Almost like my eyes pop open and I'm like, where's the threat coming from? Yeah. That's how it feels. It's horrible. So there's various things you can do to improve your sleep. You mentioned a couple of them, not looking at your phone or your screens, like laptop screens late at night. Something I do, which I found is fantastic, is I use blue blocking sunglasses. So I look a bit silly, but at night I wear sunglasses. So from hour and a half to 2 hours before bed, I put these sunglasses on. And these are not regular sunglasses. They specifically block blue light. And for those of you that don't know, blue light is not only coming from your screen, it comes from all the lights. So even lights in your living room, they're emitting a certain frequency of light that when it enters your eye, it makes your brain think it's daytime. And this is the worst thing that you can have at nighttime. Naturally, if we lived in nature, when it gets dark, you would get tired because there's no light and the sun's not up, and you would naturally get tired at a reasonable hour and you go to bed. And what I found is when I wear those glasses, come 9:30 and 10 o'clock, I can barely keep my eyes open. It's really interesting. You don't realise what the blue light does to you. And it's not just from your screens. It's from the lights, the bulbs in your living room or in your bathroom. I'd recommend it. I would highly recommend it. blue blocking sunglasses. The ones I've got they're from a company called Blue Blocker.
Right.
And
how much are they? Like 20, 30 quid?
Something like that. Yeah, you can get cheap ones, but I got good ones. And what's interesting is when you wear them, like wear them for 20 minutes, then take them off. So at night, you're in your house, you've got your just regular lights on in the lounge or whatever, put the glasses on, 20 minutes, half an hour later, take them off, and you'll see everything looks blue. Like crazy blue. You don't realise what that blue light, how much is there, unless you block it. And then when you take them off, everything looks blue, and it wakes you up. So that's another thing, another unnatural way that we live is we live with these screens and with artificial lighting, and this thing really messes up your sleep. So as well as not looking at screens late at night, I would suggest a good hour to 90 minutes of no technology before you go to bed. But blue blocking sunglasses, magical. Like, I can't tell you the difference in the quality of my sleep when I use them versus when I don't.
Just to add to that, there's also an app you can get called f.lux. Flux, yeah. And that's designed to cut out the blue light that's coming from your laptop. So you can set it up and you've got settings daytime, sunset, bedtime, and it just gradually reduces the amount of blue light that's coming out of your laptop screen as you get closer to going to bed.
Yeah, I mean, I use that and it is good, but I'll be honest, it doesn't compare to the sunglasses. Yeah, it just doesn't compare. I use both. I have Flux on my computer, and I use the sunglasses as well. Looking at a screen at night is just bad generally. Even with Flux, it's still bad. Although Flux can kind of help to mitigate that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy when you use Flux and then you stop using it, and then you notice how much blue light's coming off.
Yeah, or sometimes when you change, if you sometimes if I log on or off, or I move to a different app, sometimes it disappears for a second, Flux, and the screen gets really bright. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
But I would suggest if you struggle to sleep, or you're not sleeping well, or you can't get to sleep, or you keep waking up in the night, this is why it's happening. It's because you've got technology at night, phones and laptop, and the blue light from the lights around your house are doing that. So get the blue blocking sunglasses. Another alternative would be to get red bulbs. You can do that. I mean, even something simple like before bed, you go into the bathroom to brush your teeth. If you've had it where everything's dark in the house, the lights are low for the evening because you don't want to, you want to make sure that you're tired, then you go and brush your teeth and you turn the light on in the bathroom. It's this bright light. That's enough to mess you up.
Yeah.
So using candlelight or having softer lights, maybe you can get like a little, what are they called? Like a little click-on light, a bedside light, those kinds of things. You can have them dotted around the house. So at night, you can have a routine where from a certain time, whatever it be, let's say you want to be in bed at 10:30, from say 8:30, 9 o'clock, you turn the regular lights down and you start to use these softer lights, these lower lights. And red light's always good anyway. But what I found is just the blue blocking sunglasses, that just solves that problem, because that blocks the light anyway, so you don't need to actually go through that whole process with all those different lights. Just wear your blue blocking sunglasses, don't look at your screen, and you will sleep like an absolute baby.
Great stuff. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up.
Absolutely.
So we've gone over it, how to relieve stress, exercises and activities to quickly relieve stress and anxiety, and the main one that we spent a lot of time on was meditation.
Yeah.
Cutting out social media and your phone. Sex.
Yep.
Exercise.
Yep.
Proper nutrition and your sleep. So we hope that's been helpful for you guys. And John, is there anything else you want to add?
I'll just say if you're interested in joining us for a trauma release exercise workshop, then as I said, you can check out our Healing Works meetup group. Of course, you can check out the Planet Kambo Facebook page, check out the Planet Kambo website. If you're interested in Kambo, obviously you can get in touch, come to one of our ceremonies, and if you've got any questions about any of this stuff, then feel free to drop me an email at info@planetkambo.com.
Great. Well, thank you for listening, and that wraps up episode 2. So
cheers. See you
take
soon.
care.